My name is Shen Man. It's March 1975, and I just arrived at my father's house in the capital's military district yesterday. My mother passed away 3 years ago. On her deathbed, she asked me to go back to the Liu family, my father's family, and fulfill the arranged marriage my grandfather set up for me when I was little. But when I got here, I was one day too late. My father and his second wife, Zhang Xuemei, had already sent Zhang Xuemei's daughter, Liu Manman, to marry my fiancé in my place. They used my name, my identity. They swapped her in like I never existed. My father looked shocked and panicked when he saw me. A few questions was all it took to get the truth out of him. He and that woman schemed together to give her daughter my marriage, my future. The wedding already happened. The groom and the fake bride even spent their wedding night together. It's done. Luckily, my grandfather, Grandpa Liu, a retired military man, had just come back from the sanatorium. The moment he found out what happened, he grabbed his cane and beat my father with it, right there in the living room. 18 strikes. My father knelt on the ground and took every single one without a word. Grandfather was furious. He cursed my father for listening to his second wife's pillow talk, for betraying his own flesh and blood. He said Zhang Xuemei had wormed her way into this family using dirty tricks years ago, and now she and her daughter had stolen everything that should have been mine and my mother's. Zhang Xuemei stood in the corner, shrunken like a quail, pretending to be sorry. She even, nobly, took all the blame, begging grandfather not to punish my father. But I could see the smugness hiding behind her eyes. In her mind, what's done is done. Her daughter is married into the Gu family now, and no one can undo it. I stayed calm. I comforted my grandfather, poured him tea, and spoke to my father politely but distantly, like he was a stranger, because that's what he is to me. I told him plainly, you and Zhang Xuemei created this mess, so if the Gu family ever finds out the truth and demands answers, you two deal with it. Don't drag me into it. He agreed. I could see the guilt drowning him when he looked at my face. Everyone says I look almost exactly like my mother. Then grandfather made his move. He demanded my father hand over all his savings to me as compensation. If he refused, grandfather threatened to go to the Gu family himself and expose everything. My father didn't argue. He got up and went to get the money. Zhang Xuemei's face went white. I could tell she had already secretly taken money from that savings to use as her own daughter's dowry. I'm not going to fight over a second-hand groom. That marriage is ruined goods now. But I'm not walking away empty-handed either. My grandfather has my back, and slowly, piece by piece, I'm going to take back everything they owe me. Grandfather kept apologizing to me, saying he should have watched over this family better. I told him not to blame himself. It was just fate. Me and that groom. We simply weren't meant to be. I sat there quietly, dressed simply, no jewelry, no hair accessories. But grandfather looked at me like I was the most precious thing in the world. His long-lost granddaughter, finally back. Zhang Xuemei, though, she was staring at me with a different look. I could tell she was remembering my mother. 15 years ago, when Zhang Xuemei first showed up at our door, a widow clutching her little daughter, my mother stood at the top of the stairs looking down at her like a goddess, looking at mud. That memory planted a seed of hatred in Zhang Xuemei's heart. She decided right then she would take my mother's place.
And she did.
But her body never gave her what she wanted most, a child with Liu family blood. Grandfather offered me two choices: stay here in the military compound and let him find me a good husband, or go to the island where my older brother is stationed and pick a military officer there. He wanted me close, but he also knew that living near my father and that woman would sicken me. I smiled shyly and said I'd think about it. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught the ugly look flash across Zhang Xuemei's face. It made me genuinely happy, like dancing on her heart. Then my father came downstairs, stone-faced, carrying a small leather bag and 2 savings booklets. He said the bag was a dowry he'd prepared for me. Over the years, he'd split his salary into 2 accounts, one for me, one for my older brother, Liu Xiaobai, for when he gets married. Grandfather put on his reading glasses and checked every number carefully. Between the 2 booklets, There was about 11,000 yuan each. Not bad. Zhang Xuemei's jaw nearly hit the floor. In 15 years of marriage, she thought a booklet with 5 or 6,000 was all the family had saved. She never knew her husband had been hiding 2 more accounts from her. She looked devastated. 15 years of playing the obedient wife, bowing and scraping, and he'd been keeping the real money for his biological children all along. I thanked my father and took the booklet. His eyes were blind enough to betray my mother, but at least his heart wasn't completely dead. He'd saved this money and kept it out of Zhang Xuemei's hands. Still, I couldn't feel close to him. Not even a little. There's something else I haven't told anyone. The reason my father never had children with Zhang Xuemei isn't just bad luck. My real mother secretly gave him a sterilization drug before the divorce. If he'd ever had a child with that woman, grandfather's love and protection would have been split. Those 2 savings booklets would never have existed. And here's the real secret. I'm not really Shen Man. Not the original one, anyway. In my real life, I was a top medical doctor, a returnee from overseas, specializing in cardiopulmonary and gynecological surgery. I was brilliant at everything except romance. Almost 30 and never dated. My parents were desperate, setting up blind dates left and right. During one of those outings, I was at a shopping mall, leaning over a glass railing to watch a wife confronting a mistress on the floor below. I leaned too far and fell 6 stories to my death. When I opened my eyes again, I was in this body, Shen Man's body, in 1975. The panic hit me fast because I recognized this life. Shen Man is a character from a novel I once read, 70s Military Marriage. After the substitute marriage, I became the officer husband's darling. In that book, Shen Man is the villain. She comes back to the capital, falls in love with her arranged fiancé, but he's already in love with her stepsister. She makes a fool of herself. Everyone grows to hate her. Even her grandfather. Even her brother. The fiancé's family refuses to marry her. She ends up alone, disgraced, and at 30-something tries to push her stepsister's child off a building. They throw her out. She wanders alone and dies in the snow. What a waste of a perfectly good hand of cards. But that's not going to be my story. I have her face, her family background, her connections. The original Shen Man threw it all away chasing one man.
Me?
I wouldn't bother looking twice at that so-called fiancé. With what I've got, I can walk through this world with my head held high. My father saw me take the savings booklet and thought I'd forgiven him. He was about to say something nice when Zhang Xuemei pinched his arm. She whined about their retirement. How would they survive if he gave all the money to the children? My father shut her down cold. He reminded her they both have jobs and will get pensions. Then he asked the real question, what about the 2,000 yuan she secretly took from the savings? Zhang Xuemei's face went pale. She couldn't even finish a sentence. Grandfather sent me upstairs before things got uglier. He said he still had words for my father and that woman. I nodded politely, grabbed the leather bag from the table. No way I was leaving that behind, and headed to my room. The moment I closed my door, I heard Zhang Xuemei crying downstairs and grandfather yelling. What a lively household. Too bad the original Shen Man never got to enjoy this show. My room was small, about 20 square meters, simply furnished, but it had its own little washroom. 3 thermoses in the corner, a fresh basin, toothbrush, toothpaste, all new. Not as cozy as home in Suzhou, but I wouldn't be staying long anyway. I switched off the overhead light and pulled the cord on the desk lamp. Warm light filled the room. March nights in the capital are dry and biting cold, and warm light has a way of lying to you, making things feel softer than they are. I washed up, scrubbed my underclothes by hand, old habits from my past life. I'm a Suzhou girl through and through, always have been. Bathe every day, wash hair every 2 or 3 days, change socks and underwear daily.
No exceptions.
After an hour, everything was done, and the house had gone quiet. I tucked the savings booklets under my pillow and unzipped the leather bag, dumping everything onto the bed.
Gold. Silver.
Jade pieces.
Pearl jewelry.
Industrial coupons. Foreign exchange certificates. Sugar tickets. Pastry tickets. Bicycle tickets. Watch tickets. all tangled together in a glittering pile. I couldn't help but grin. My guilty father had basically emptied the family vault for me. But in this era, you can't flash wealth around. I'd already made my decision. I'm going to the island to find my older brother. That's how I avoid the original Shen Man's tragic storyline. But carrying gold and jade around is asking for trouble. If someone found it, they might accuse me of being a capitalist's daughter. And technically, my maternal grandfather was a capitalist, a red capitalist who supported the revolution, but still, not a label I want drawing attention. Then I noticed something. One piece was glowing, a jade pendant about the length of my index finger, giving off a faint green shimmer. I picked it up and felt warmth spread through my palm. It looked familiar. Very familiar. Then it hit me. This was the female lead's golden cheat code from the novel. A magical jade pendant that unlocks a spiritual spring dimension, an entire hidden space filled with healing spring water. In the original story, the heroine goes back to visit my father on the third day after her wedding, sweet-talks him into giving her this family heirloom, then accidentally cuts her finger washing dishes at her in-laws' house. Her blood touches the jade, and boom, she awakens the power. From that day forward, she uses the spiritual spring water to secretly heal dying patients, climbing from a low-level nurse all the way to chief surgeon, deputy director, then hospital president. I remember reading those scenes and rolling my eyes. Every time a patient was on death's door and every doctor had given up, the heroine would swoop in, secretly feed them spring water, and take all the credit when they miraculously recovered. The comment section gushed about how kind and amazing she was. I was the only one who posted, is it the spring water saving them or her actual medical skills? And is this a real cure or just a temporary revival before death? I got flooded with 99 angry replies telling me to mind my own business. But now, because I showed up and triggered my father's guilt, he handed me the jade pendant early, before the heroine could ever ask for it. Sorry, little heroine, I whispered. You took my fiancé, so I'm taking your cheat code. Fair trade, right? Actually, no, you stole my fiancé and my jade pendant first. I'm just keeping what's mine and tossing you the man I don't want. I must have looked pretty creepy, whispering to myself with my hair hanging loose in the dim lamplight. I picked my index finger. I'd brought my medical kit from Suzhou. Old habits die hard, so I swabbed a needle with alcohol, gritted my teeth, and pricked myself. A bead of blood welled up. Can't waste it, every drop counts. I pressed the blood onto the jade pendant. The glow shifted from green to brilliant gold and wrapped around me completely. When the light faded, there was a tiny new mole on my hand, right at the base of my thumb and forefinger. You'd miss it if you weren't looking. I focused my mind, and suddenly I was standing in a misty, formless world. Out of the fog walked a white tiger. Huge, magnificent. I wasn't scared at all. If anything, I felt drawn to it, like meeting an old friend. The majestic entrance lasted about 3 seconds. Then the tiger deflated like a balloon, shrinking and shifting until it became a tiny tabby kitten with blue eyes. Adorably, impossibly small. Master, it mewed. I dropped to my knees, scooped the little thing into my arms, and just held it. Petting it, snuggling it, and the little fur ball even started kneading my chest with its paws like it was nursing. This might be the best day of my new life. I sat in that misty space, holding the little tabby kitten, and asked it to explain everything. Turns out, the jade pendant is an ancient artifact made by the Liu family's founding ancestor. Liu old ancestor, I'll call her. The kitten is the spirit living inside the artifact, bound to the space within it. Only 2 kinds of people can activate it. Someone with Liu family blood, or someone carrying extraordinary luck. Since I have Liu blood, I got the full package. The heroine in the novel? She only married into the Liu family, no blood connection. That's why she only unlocked a tiny fraction of the space, a 20-square-meter room with 1 lotus flower in a water tank, dripping 1 drop of spiritual water per day. That single drop was her whole cheat code. 1 sip could make you look younger, feel sharper, and cure almost any disease. She built her entire medical career on it, skipping real studying, glossing over surgery details, just secretly feeding patients the water and taking credit when they magically recovered. As someone who actually studied medicine properly, that always bothered me. But what I was looking at now was completely different. I was standing in an elegant old-style Chinese courtyard. A few steps ahead, a little stone bridge crossed over a pond filled with lotus flowers. Not one, but over 100. Each one produces a drop of spiritual liquid per day. If you don't collect it, the drop falls back into the pond to keep the lotus alive. So my daily output is 100 times what the heroine would have gotten. Not bad at all. I explored further, pushing open dusty doors. The main room had a desk, chairs, bookshelves, and rows of bottles and jars. Very simple, very old Chinese style. Then the kitten spoke up. Well, it meowed, but I understood every word perfectly. It told me its old master used to call it glutton and never gave it a real name. It looked up at me with those big blue eyes, terrified I'd abandon it, swearing it was easy to feed now that it was small. I named it Tengyuan Rice Ball. It loved the name instantly. I wandered over to the bookshelf and pulled out a dusty old book. The title read, 18 Husbands All Doting on Me Alone. I nearly dropped it. So the Liu ancestor was a woman? And apparently a very interesting one. Then again, she lived over 1,000 years ago before the modern era. And honestly, if transmigrating into a novel is possible, why not ancient female cultivators with colorful love lives? Tengyuan covered its eyes with both paws, clearly embarrassed on its old master's behalf, and quickly redirected me. It told me to claim ownership of a small green jade bottle on the opposite shelf. The important thing. I pricked my finger again and dripped blood on it. Now I can use my mind to collect the spiritual liquid from the lotus flowers and store it in this bottle. The bottle is special. It preserves the spiritual energy inside the liquid perfectly, no matter how much time passes. I looked around the rest of the courtyard. Sadly, 1,000 years had taken their toll. Everything the ancestor planted, herbs, spiritual plants, had withered and turned to dust long ago. Only the lotus flowers survived because they fed on each other's drops. Even Tengyuan had barely survived by drinking the trace amounts of spiritual energy left in the pond water. Without it, the little spirit would have fallen into permanent sleep. Tengyuan sensed my disappointment and panicked. It promised it could find treasures, that it would earn its keep and take care of me. I rubbed its tiny head and told it I wasn't disappointed in it. I was just thinking about how to use this space to build us a good life. Its stomach growled right on cue. I laughed, tapped its little nose, and carried it out of the space with a thought. Back in my room, I checked the time. Over an hour had passed, so time inside the space runs the same as outside.
No Chimitrix, no Shortcuts.
Tengyuan looked around my small room with wide eyes, clearly unimpressed. In its opinion, this place was too small and too shabby for its master. There's no cat food in 1975, and Tengyuan isn't really a cat anyway, so I figure human food would work. I pulled out the snacks grandfather had bought for me, egg cake, chocolate milk. Tengyuan's nose twitched, its tail swished, and it patted the egg cake package with its paw. That one. I poured some milk into my lunchbox for it and went back into the space to practice collecting lotus drops with my mind. Meanwhile, across the city at the Capital Hospital family compound, it was midnight. In a room decorated with red wedding paper cuts, a man slept deeply on a large bed, reeking of alcohol. Beside him, the woman, his new bride, was drenched in sweat, tossing in a nightmare. "No, don't take it," she mumbled. "It's mine. Don't steal it. All mine." She woke up gasping. The marks on her shoulders told the story of the wedding night. But the handsome man beside her didn't stir at all. He just kept breathing evenly, still dead drunk. That would be my stepsister and her stolen groom. Sweet dreams to them both. That night, across the city, my stepsister Liu Manman, or rather, her real name is actually Liu Manman, woke up in a cold sweat from a nightmare. In her dream, the whole truth came out. Everyone stared at her with disgust. Her new sister-in-law mocked her. Her husband looked at her with ice-cold eyes. The neighbors pointed and called her shameless. Grandfather and I glared at her with hatred. and the faceless ghost of the original Shen Man stood there, saying nothing, which was somehow worse than any words. She lay there in the dark, reminding herself that dreams mean the opposite. She told herself she only wanted a good life, wanted to marry up using the Liu family name, because stepdaughter is a worthless title. She admitted, at least to herself, that she'd drugged her new husband's wine on the wedding night, gotten him drunk and confused, and seduced him while he couldn't think straight. All so she could get pregnant. She figures once she's carrying the Gu family's first grandchild, even if her real identity gets exposed, no one can throw her out. She'd be untouchable. She curled up against her unconscious husband's chest, clinging to what she'd stolen. The next morning, I woke up after only 2 hours of sleep, but I felt incredible. I'd put 1 drop of spiritual liquid in my water before bed. All my tiredness vanished completely. My skin was glowing. The food I'd left out for Tangyuan was gone, not even a crumb. I looked over at the corner of the bed where a tiny ball of fur was curled up, ears standing straight. I gave it a quick pet and told it to go back inside the space. I needed to go downstairs for breakfast, then head out to stock up on supplies before I leave for the island. I promised Tangyuan I'd find a believable excuse for where it came from, so it could stay by my side openly. Tangyuan meowed obediently and let me send it back into the space. I tucked the savings booklets and the leather bag into the space too. No way I was leaving valuables in my room for someone to snoop through while I was out. Downstairs, grandfather had already been busy. He'd called an old friend and arranged a soft sleeper train ticket to the island for me. He'd also gathered up his own retirement savings and all the ration tickets he'd collected over the years. He handed everything to me, said it was all for me, not even for my brother, just for me. His way of making up for 15 years of missing my life. We sat together at breakfast, comfortable and close, like we'd never been apart. Blood is blood. I told him I'd made my decision. I wanted to go to my brother as soon as possible. He was relieved. He said once I got there, I should find a good military officer to marry and help my brother find a wife too. Then, voice dropping low, he asked me something that broke my heart a little. When my brother and I are settled with families of our own, would we please take him in? He doesn't want to stay in this house anymore. Not with my father and that woman. I promised him we would. Then I spotted movement on the stairs, someone coming down, and I quickly changed the subject, giving grandfather a look. He caught on instantly like the old revolutionary he is. It was Zhang Xuemei. She looked terrible, eyes swollen and red, dark circles, completely drained. Clearly hadn't slept. She came straight over and apologized to me for secretly taking 2,000 yuan for her daughter's dowry. I wiped my mouth with a napkin, looked her dead in the eye, and said calmly, Zhang auntie, stealing is wrong. The person you owe an apology to is my father, for betraying his trust. Not every apology deserves forgiveness, especially the fake kind. Then I turned to grandfather with a sweet smile and said today is Manman's homecoming day, the tradition where a new bride visits her parents 3 days after the wedding. I said I didn't feel right being here for that. I'd rather go out, see the capital, buy some things. I'd skip lunch at home so Manman could have her special day without any awkwardness. Grandfather sighed and said I was too considerate, too sensible. He wished I'd inherited even a fraction of my mother's fierce temper. I smiled and said that no matter what Zhang Xuemei and Manman did to me, I wouldn't make a public scene, for grandfather's sake and my father's face. I wouldn't let outsiders laugh at this family. Every word was polite. Every word was proper. And every word cut Zhang Xuemei deeper than a slap across the face. My father came downstairs just in time to hear me say I'd protect the family's reputation for his sake and grandfather's. I could see the guilt eating him alive. His stepdaughter had knelt before him and begged him to help her steal my marriage. Meanwhile, his real daughter, the one he abandoned, was the one thinking about his dignity. Grandfather arranged for Little Lee to drive me around the capital. Little Lee is the son of grandfather's former military guard, now serving as his driver and bodyguard. Grandfather said I was too pretty to wander around alone, and he wouldn't feel safe without someone watching over me. I agreed without argument. Zhang Xuemei was secretly relieved I was leaving the house. She was terrified that if her new son-in-law saw my face, clearly prettier than her daughter's, it would cause trouble. So I climbed into grandfather's black red flag sedan and drove out of the military compound, with every neighbor watching. The moment I left, the gossip machine started running at full speed. Who's that girl? Old Lou never even let Man ride in his car. That's his real granddaughter, the one from his son's first wife. Wait, wasn't the first wife some capitalist daughter? No, her family were red capitalists. They sold everything and donated it to the revolution. Good people. Then someone asked the real question. So, the arranged marriage with the Gu family, was it set up for the first wife's daughter, or the second wife's daughter? Everyone's eyes lit up. Now that's a juicy piece of gossip.
I was already long gone by then.
In the car, I told Little Lee to drop me at the department store and not follow me around. He agreed without asking questions, just glanced at me once in the rearview mirror. He knows my place in grandfather's heart. Smart man. I like people who know when not to ask. I leaned back and closed my eyes, but my mind slipped into the space. I collected half the spiritual liquid from the lotus flowers and left the rest to drip back into the pond, feeding the space itself. Tang Yuan was lapping at the pond water, then asked me shyly if I could buy some fish fry. Living creatures in the space would purify and strengthen the spiritual energy, which would help Tang Yuan grow stronger too. The little thing felt guilty for asking. It hadn't even found me any treasures yet. I said yes right away, then thought further. If living things help the space, why stop at fish? Tang Yuan, what if I buy chickens, ducks, geese, or rabbits? Can you look after them in here? Tang Yuan puffed out its tiny chest proudly. Absolutely, it said. It would set up separate areas for them so they wouldn't run around and mess up the courtyard.
Perfect.
I'm the kind of person who looks at a cute bunny and thinks, spicy rabbit head or diced rabbit with chili peppers. My plan was clear now. Before I leave for the island, I'll spend every ticket and coupon I have. Poultry, eggs, meat, daily supplies. I'll stockpile everything I can and store it all in the space. Meanwhile, around 9:30 that morning, Lu Man was riding on the back of a bicycle, arms wrapped around her new husband's waist, face glowing with happiness. She was holding a tin of malted milk powder, and the handlebars were loaded with pork and gifts from the Gu family. Today was their homecoming day, 3 days after the wedding, when the bride visits her parents. It would have been perfect, except her husband Gu Tingchen's face was cold as stone the entire ride. When they arrived, Zhang Xuemei pulled her daughter aside immediately. Manman asked why the neighbors had been giving her strange looks on the way in. Zhang Xuemei's face twisted. That little wretch came back the day before yesterday. Your grandfather and your father are falling over themselves with guilt, giving her everything she wants. Man grabbed her mother's arms so hard it hurt.
What?
Shen Man is here. Zhang Xuemei winced, but didn't scold her. She explained everything. That I go by my mother's surname, Shen, not Lu. Man felt her world collapsing. Her nightmare was coming true. She'd hidden her real identity from the Gu family, used my name to claim the arranged marriage, drugged her groom to seal the deal. If Gu Tingchen ever finds out she's not the girl he was promised, he will divorce her without hesitation. And now I'm right here in the same city, under the same family roof. While I was out shopping, things were happening back at the house. Man and her mother were panicking. The moment they arrived for the homecoming visit, Zhang Xuemei pulled her daughter aside and told her I was back, but had left for the day. Man nearly lost it. Her face went white. Zhang Xuemei calmed her down, saying I'd be leaving for the island soon and wouldn't stay long. Inside, Gu Tingchen, Manman's new husband, my stolen fiancé, sat across from grandfather, polite and composed. He was only in his 20s but carried himself like a senior official. Impressive, honestly. Grandfather looked at him and quietly sighed. A fine young man, wasted on Zhang Xuemei's scheming daughter. But then he reminded himself, his granddaughter deserves someone even better. Gu Tingchen mentioned that his own grandfather had gone back to the northeast and sent his apologies for leaving without saying goodbye. Grandfather nodded warmly and said he'd visit someday. Man couldn't handle sitting in that room. She could feel grandfather's eyes seeing right through her, knowing exactly what she'd done. She made an excuse about helping in the kitchen and fled. Zhang Xuemei followed. They didn't actually cook anything. Instead, they locked themselves in Manman's old room to scheme. Zhang Xuemei asked if the wedding night worked. Man admitted she'd drugged his wine. Without the drug, he hadn't seemed interested in her at all. Zhang Xuemei told her to get pregnant as fast as possible. Once she's carrying the Gu family's grandchild, even if the truth comes out, they can't easily throw her away. And since I've already accepted the dowry and I'm leaving the capital, Man can keep playing the role of the real Mrs.
Gu.
Man asked if I'd really given up. Her mother snapped back that I'd taken a huge dowry. What more would I want? Man got jealous immediately. Why did my father give me so much when she'd been by his side for 15 years? Zhang Xuemei hushed her and said the cold truth. He's not your real father. Then her mother told her to focus, work on the marriage, have a baby, secure her position. Man protested that she wanted to keep her nursing job at the hospital. She had dreams of becoming a doctor, a department head, even a hospital director someday. Zhang Xuemei let it go and just told her to avoid running into me for the next few days. Man sat there seething with jealousy. She remembered the day she first came to the Liu house as a little girl, dirty, poor, clutching her mother's hand. And there I was, in a pretty dress with a pretty hairdo, smiling brightly, offering her candy. Sister, want some sweets? In that moment, little Man understood that people are born unequal. Some are born on clouds. Some are born in the weeds. So she learned to copy my smile, to act sweet and obedient, to win everyone over. Then when my parents divorced and my mother took me away, Man grabbed everything I left behind with both hands. She wished I'd just died out there with my mother and never come back. Meanwhile, I was at the department store having the time of my life. I bought egg cakes by the armload. I wrapped my scarf up high to hide my face. Beauty is dangerous in any era, and kidnappers don't care if it's 1975. I have no fighting ability right now. If someone came at me openly, I'd lose. Secretly, I could escape into the space, but I'd rather not test that. Sure enough, I noticed shady eyes following me. Someone thought I was a fat sheep, spending money like water. When a shop clerk asked if I needed help carrying everything, I casually mentioned my family's driver was waiting outside. In this era, having a driver means having a car, and having a car means power. The stalkers' faces changed immediately, and they backed off. The fox borrows the tiger's might. Works every time. After that, I headed upstairs to the clothing section. The island where my brother is stationed has a tropical climate, warm most of the year, mild winters, big temperature swings between day and night. I needed short sleeves and light jackets. I bought 2 sets of new clothes for my brother too. We haven't met in 15 years, but he's still my blood. For grandfather, I picked out nice things. He deserves it after everything he's done for me. For my father, fine, I'll buy him a couple of items. Off-season clearance stuff. He earned that much with the savings booklets. For Zhang Xuemei, I haven't eaten her food or drunk her water. She gets nothing. I finished shopping for clothes quickly, new outfits for me, nice things for grandfather, decent stuff for my brother, and some clearance items for my father. The store staff offered to carry everything to the car when they saw how much I'd bought. I gave them the license plate number, and the moment they heard it, a military district plate, their attitude became even more respectful. In this era, people who ride in cars like that aren't ordinary people. With my hands free, I kept shopping. I needed personal supplies, especially sanitary pads and proper undergarments. When I first transmigrated 3 years ago, right after my mother died, I had to deal with getting my period using old-fashioned cloth belts and rough red tissue paper. It was miserable. A family friend, Auntie Gu, eventually got me 2 proper bras with underwire and shared her monthly sanitary pad ration tickets. She saved me from the most embarrassing parts of growing up in this era. The department store here in the capital actually sells pads, but without tickets they cost double. I don't care about the price anymore. I bought a full year's supply, half long and half short. Then I ducked through a few turns to shake off anyone following me, shoved everything into the space, and headed for the parking lot. Literally was waiting. I invited him to lunch at the state-run restaurant nearby, my treat. He smiled, the first real smile I'd seen from him. He told me that in 7 years working for the Liu family, only grandfather and my brother ever treated him like a person. My father's family, especially Manman, either bossed him around or ignored him completely. He said I was different, and he meant it. It felt good to hear. As we pulled up near the restaurant, I caught the smell of roasting duck from the Kwangjued roast duck restaurant next door. My mouth watered instantly. In my past life, I'd only eaten authentic Kwangjued duck once, and I never forgot that taste. Literally told me to wait in the car. He pulled out a roast duck coupon, clearly prepared in advance, and jogged over to buy one from a friend inside. I sat there touched. He wasn't just following orders. He genuinely wanted to show me something good about this city. While I waited, I chatted with Tangyuan in the space. I promised to save it a duck leg. It went crazy with excitement. I also thought about the spiritual liquid. It's powerful stuff, and I want to leave some for grandfather before I go. His health isn't great, but I can't just hand him a mysterious bottle and say, "Drink this." He'd think I was being childish. Then an old man appeared at my car window. His face was deeply wrinkled, his back bent under a huge basket that looked like it might crush him. He asked if I wanted to buy grapes. Grapes? In March? Tangyuan told me the old man's aura was white, meaning he's honest, upright, brave.
No danger.
I asked if I could try one first. He smiled warmly and set down his heavy basket, revealing clusters of tiny grapes, no bigger than marbles. I got out of the car and took a closer look. These had to be greenhouse-grown. I mentioned what I knew about greenhouse farming, how China had been developing simple greenhouses and plastic coverings since the 1950s, and how northern cities had recently started using glass and plastic film structures to grow vegetables year-round. The old man's eyes widened. How does a young girl know about greenhouse technology? Most people have never heard of it. I wiped a grape with my handkerchief and popped it in my mouth. Tart and sweet, no bitterness at all.
Perfect.
These would make excellent wine. I tasted one grape and made up my mind. I wanted all of them. The old man explained he couldn't sell them for money. Private buying and selling isn't allowed in this era. He wanted grain in exchange. He had about 20-some pounds in his basket and another 40-plus pounds still on the vine at home. I proposed a deal. I'd take the whole basket, including the bamboo carrier, for 40 pounds worth of grain tickets right now. Tomorrow, he'd bring the rest and I'd trade him flower tickets, 2nd and 3rd grade, plus some oil tickets. Bartering, not buying. No money changes hands, just goods for goods. As for whether the exchange rate is fair, that's between our consciences. The old man's eyes glistened. He could barely speak from gratitude. I could tell it had been a long time since anyone showed him simple kindness. I had him put the basket on the front passenger seat, then pulled 4 10-pound grain tickets from the space. When he wasn't looking, he tucked them into his pocket like treasure. Before he left, I asked if he could get me chickens, ducks, geese, or eggs. I told him I was leaving the capital soon to join relatives and wanted to bring meat and eggs along. He looked around nervously, then whispered that he wouldn't do this for just anyone, but for me, he'd risk it. I laughed and promised I'd keep my mouth shut. We agreed to meet at the same spot tomorrow at noon. He hurried off to buy grain before his family's food ran out completely. Almost the second he left, Lily came back carrying an oil paper package, the roast duck, still warm. He noticed the basket of grapes and raised an eyebrow. I told him the truth. No point hiding anything from him. He's not just a driver, he's sharp. I said I'd traded grain tickets for the grapes and wanted to make grape wine for grandfather before I leave. He looked surprised that grapes existed in March, but didn't push it. He probably figured out they were greenhouse grown, which meant the old man was likely some retired professor or researcher fallen on hard times. I rubbed my stomach and gave him my best pitiful look. Li Ji, I'm hungry. He couldn't resist. He locked the car and led me straight to the state-run restaurant. He'd snagged the very last roast duck, lucky us. We had a wonderful, easy lunch together. Lily treats me like a little sister. 7 years younger than him, and he's completely sincere about it. It felt nice to just eat and laugh like a normal person. Meanwhile, back at the house, Manman's homecoming lunch was a very different scene. Gu Tingchen sat with grandfather and my father, drinking and making polite conversation. He mentioned his work transfer had come through. He'd be staying in the capital, assigned to the Railway Bureau. They'd already been given housing in the Railway Bureau's family compound, and he and Man would move in tomorrow. Grandfather told them to live well and take care of each other. Simple words, nothing more. Man sat there barely able to eat. Her favorite dishes tasted like cardboard. She was drowning in her own secrets. She'd learned after the wedding that the Gu family has an adopted daughter, an adopted sister who's in love with Gu Tingchen. On their wedding night, this adopted sister got him drunk on purpose, and he passed out in the living room. Man sat alone in the bridal chamber all night, waiting for a groom who never came. The next morning at the tea ceremony, Man swallowed her humiliation. Gu Tingchen didn't come for her. He just said coldly, "My sister is young." As her sister-in-law, show some patience. He seemed to forget that Man is only 18 or 19, 2 years younger than the adopted sister. On the second night, when the sister tried the same drinking trick, Man fought back with her own weapon. She slipped drugs into Gu Tingchen's wine. After that, everything happened naturally. She finally got what she wanted. But when he woke up the next morning, he just rubbed his forehead and looked at her with cold, sharp eyes. He didn't say a word. He got dressed, told her to come eat breakfast, loaded up the homecoming gifts, and brought her here.
No worms. No affection.
During lunch, Gu Tingchen suddenly noticed something on a potted plant by the window, tiny red plum blossoms made of wax, perched on the branches of a money tree. He asked about them. They weren't there when he came to pick up the bride days ago. Zhang Xuemei jumped in before anyone could answer. Oh, Man made those before the wedding. Just for fun, for good luck. Actually, those were mine. I'd made them. Zhang Xuemei shot grandfather a desperate look, begging him not to expose the lie. Grandfather didn't want to create trouble for me, so he let it slide and just asked for fresh tea. My father sat silently, staring at the little wax plum blossoms, sadness passing through his eyes. He knew who really made them. Man saw his expression and felt her heart squeezed by an invisible hand. She turned to her husband with a forced smile and offered to make wax flowers for their new home too. Gu Tingchen just said, and went back to chatting with grandfather. But his eyes kept drifting back to those little red plum blossoms, and without realizing it, the coldness in his face softened. Just slightly. Lunch at the state-run restaurant was incredible. The menu was small, but the cook was a real craftsman. Even simple greens tasted like state banquet quality. I ate politely, but the food vanished fast from my plate. People who'd been staring at my face gradually looked away. Not because I wasn't pretty, but because they watched me eat 20 yuan worth of food in one sitting. That's half a month's wages for a normal person. Nobody could afford a girl with that appetite. Lily didn't flinch at the bill. The roast duck was his treat. Everything else would go on grandfather's tab. He probably thought I was skin and bones from years of hardship and needed the nutrition. The truth? I'm not actually that big an eater. It was Tang Yuan in the space, begging for food. I had to secretly slip bites into the space whenever Lily wasn't looking at the right angle. After lunch, I decided to walk to the supply cooperative, only about a kilometer away. On the way, passing a tree, a tiny meow came from the roots. Then a little tabby kitten tumbled out and rolled right against my foot. Showtime. Oh, what a cute little kitty. I crouched down and scooped up Tang Yuan, acting surprised. Lily looked around carefully and reminded me that a stray kitten this young might have a mother nearby. I agreed we should wait. After a while, with no mother cat appearing, I declared the kitten abandoned. Then I put on my little performance. You bumped into my foot, so now you're my cat. If you want to come with me, meow 3 times. Lily smiled, probably thinking there's no way a kitten understands human speech. Meow meow meow, meow meow meow, meow meow meow. His smile froze. He definitely heard 3 rounds of meowing. And I'm pretty sure he caught a flash of smugness in those tiny blue eyes. Good kitty. I'll name you Tang Yuan. If you like the name Meow once. Meow. Lily stood there completely stunned. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. A kitten that understands Chinese? He probably told himself he was imagining things. I tucked Tang Yuan into my fuzzy knitted bag to keep warm. Inside the bag, Tang Yuan complained about the cold. I told it not to worry. We'd be heading to the island soon, where it's warm almost year-round. Nothing like this freezing capital. Tang Yuan said it would follow me anywhere. At the supply cooperative, I couldn't find fish fry, couldn't even find pork. This era is just too scarce for some things. But the beauty counter? That was another story. The shelves were lined with domestic skincare treasures. Wanzi Hong Hong Moisturizing Cream, Yishuang Cream, Snake Bed Herb Chilblain Ointment, Friendship Snow Cream, Kong Fengchen Rouge. I bought everything that caught my eye, moisturizers, lip colors, all of it. A woman should take care of herself first, before being anyone's daughter, sister, or wife. Natural beauty still needs maintenance. In this era, most women wash everything with 1 bar of soap. Compared to them, I was already ridiculously high maintenance. The shop workers stared, but with Little standing behind me like a military statue, nobody dared give me trouble. They just fetched whatever I pointed at. I also loaded up on candy, fruit hard candies, white rabbit milk candies, and malt candy. This body has low blood sugar. I need to carry sweets at all times, or I'll faint without warning. I don't know what the supply situation is like on the island, so I'm stocking up on everything I can think of. Tang Yuan caught the scent of something sweet and wanted it. I can feel its desires through our bond. I looked where it was looking. Malted milk powder. I bought 2 cans. Expensive, but pocket change to me now. When I paid, I pulled out a thick stack of cash and assorted tickets. Everyone in the store went wide-eyed. But one glance at Little Lee's military posture, and they all quickly looked away. After we left, the saleswoman was practically dancing as she counted the receipts. Best sales day of the month. She earns a dime commission on every skincare product sold, and I'd cleaned out half the shelf. She was probably praying customers like me would walk in every day. After wandering around for over an hour, it was past 3 in the afternoon. I figured I'd given my father and Zhang Xiumei plenty of time to finish the homecoming lunch and send the newlyweds off. If they hadn't managed that by now, not my problem. On the way home, Little Lee eyed the basket of grapes on the passenger seat. I told him I'd ordered 2 more baskets for tomorrow and asked him to drive me back for the pickup. I promised him a bottle of my homemade grape wine once it was ready. His whole face brightened, not because of the wine, but because I was treating him like family, not hired help. Even if the wine tasted terrible, I knew he'd drink every drop. What he doesn't know is that I'll add a few drops of spiritual liquid to the wine. Good for the body. I'm planning to make sure grandfather gets plenty. As for my father and Zhang Xiumei, not a single drop. I'll make grandfather promise. While I was out, something interesting happened at the house. Manman went to my father's study and asked him for the jade pendant, the peace amulet. She wanted it for herself. My father refused her flat out. She walked out with an ugly look on her face, unable to understand why he'd give it to me instead of her, the daughter who'd been at his side for 15 years. Deep down, she felt like she'd just lost something incredibly important.
She was right about that.
Her husband Gu Tingchen noticed her bad mood and offered to stay longer if she wasn't feeling well. She covered it up, saying she was just sad about leaving her parents. He promised to bring her back on rest days once they'd settled into their new home. For this era, that's a genuinely kind thing to say. They packed up the returned gifts and left on his bicycle. And that's when it happened. Our paths crossed. Their bicycle passed my car on the road. Through the half-open car window, Manman saw my face.
You smiled ahead.
She nearly crushed her husband's waist. He stopped the bike, alarmed, asking what was wrong. She lied and said her stomach hurt. He didn't push it. He's observant enough to notice something was off, but decent enough not to interrogate his wife. His grandfather had told him before leaving to be patient and not nitpick in marriage. Manman was just relieved he hadn't seen my face. She told herself she just had to survive a few more days until I left the capital. When I got home, I called out to grandfather sweetly and took his arm. I gave my father a small nod. Zhang Xiumei? I didn't even glance in her direction. Grandfather fussed over me immediately. Had I eaten? Was I tired? I told him Little Lee had treated me to Quanjued roast duck, and it was delicious. Then I started showing off everything I'd brought back. Clothes for grandfather. He was thrilled, said he'd wear them tomorrow to go fishing with his old buddies. Clothes for my brother too. I told him about Tangyuan and he said a little pet would be good company. I mentioned the grapes and asked if we had a jar or glass container at home because I wanted to make grape wine. His eyes lit up. He'd been craving good wine. Then I handed my father 2 outfits. Nothing fancy, but the look of hope in his eyes when I acknowledged him was almost pitiful. He still has his uses, so I'll keep feeding him small treats. For Zhang Xuemei, I put on an apologetic face and explained sweetly that I didn't know what style she liked, and since Manman lives nearby and can buy things for her anytime, I didn't get her anything. She forced a smile and said she had plenty of clothes. Her teeth were probably grinding to dust behind those lips. My father, riding the wave of guilt and gratitude, announced on the spot that he'd send me 100 yuan every month as spending money. Zhang Xuemei swayed on her feet. She didn't dare object. If she opened her mouth, he might send all 197 yuan of his salary to me instead. I looked at Zhang Xuemei with wide, uncertain eyes and said softly, "Dad, are you sure?" "Zhang, Auntie might not be happy about that." That was all it took. My father launched into a speech about how Zhang Xuemei has her own salary, how she lives rent-free in this house, how she'd already secretly taken 2,000 yuan from the family savings for her daughter's dowry, so what right does she have to complain? Grandfather ignored the whole drama and asked Little to carry his new clothes upstairs. I accepted my father's offer with a shy, grateful expression. 100 yuan a month, 1,200 a year. Even if I never work a day in my life, I could live comfortably just on that alone. Not bad for a girl who arrived with nothing but a suitcase 2 days ago. Little found a wine jar in the storage room, and I got to work. Winemaking is simple if you know what you're doing. Clean the jar, dry it completely, no raw water left on the walls. I brought everything upstairs and started sorting grapes, picking out the good ones, tossing any that were bruised or split. My train ticket arrived that afternoon. Grandfather's friend delivered it personally. A soft sleeper for the day after tomorrow, 10 in the morning. Zhang Xuemei's mood visibly improved when she heard. 1 more day, and I'd be gone. She could breathe easy again. While I worked on the grapes, Tangyuan shared something interesting. It can see the energy, the qi, inside people's chests, and each color means something different. Little Li's qi is green, full of life, positive, upright. Zhang Xuemei's is dark blue-black, a rotten heart, and signs of disease forming in her body. Grandfather's qi is mostly white with a faint golden shimmer. White means long life. Gold means merit, accumulated good karma. I figured grandfather's gold probably came from his years fighting the Japanese invaders. Tangyuan confirmed that killing true evil does add to your lifespan. Tangyuan explained more. The ancestor who created this space said that spiritual energy in this world would grow thinner over time. People with strong fortune would also weaken. And fortune isn't fixed to one person. It can spread across many. That's why in the original novel, Manman had enough fortune to partially open the space and get 1 drop of spiritual water a day. She was the heroine after all. Her luck was second only to the male leads. But she had no Lu family blood, so she never met Tangyuan, never got the full courtyard, never accessed the jade bottle. Tangyuan reassured me. Once the space recognizes a master, no one can take it away unless I die. It promised to protect me and stay with me until the end. I could feel its loyalty through our bond. Complete, unwavering. Then Tangyuan let something slip through its emotions, something it couldn't say out loud. My qi is pale purple with a golden edge. In over 1,000 years, only one other person had qi like that, the Lu ancestor herself. Tangyuan suspects I might be her reincarnation, but there's a seal preventing it from telling me directly. So it just showed me its belly, trusting me completely. I put out some egg cakes for it and started the wine. Tangyuan declared it would happily be my pet forever. 1,000-year-old white tiger, now a kitten the size of my palm, begging for snacks. I can't resist fluffy things. Never could. While my hands worked the grapes, my mind drifted to my past life. When I first transmigrated 3 years ago, I was terrified. No memories of the original Shen Man's life. No idea who anyone was. I played the grieving orphan, silent, withdrawn, and the neighbors assumed I was just heartbroken over my mother's death. Really, I was afraid that one wrong word would expose me. As the original body grew up, the face became harder to hide. Boys confessed to me at school. Strangers followed me home. Neighbors helped when they could, but they couldn't protect me forever. The moment the 3-year mourning period ended, I packed a bag and headed for the capital. Not because I cared about fatherly love. I needed shelter. I needed a husband who could keep the wolves away. That desire, just wanting safety from being treated like merchandise, goes deeper than this life. In my previous life, I was controlled from the start. In middle school, boys confessed. My parents said good girls don't date young. In college, men pursued me. My parents demanded I return home after graduation, no marrying far away, and the man's family must meet their standards. After I came back from studying abroad, they forced me to take a local civil service exam, work at the local hospital, and start arranged dating. When I pushed back, they didn't argue. They threatened their own lives. My aunts and uncles tag-teamed me with guilt. Your parents paid for college. They sent you overseas. No other girl in this family got that. How dare you be ungrateful? Year after year, I gave in. I went numb. I became their perfect obedient daughter. I sat through blind dates where men inspected me like cuts of meat on a butcher's block, while my parents haggled over terms with their families. Looking back now, I was depressed. Deeply. My body was breaking down from it too. Exhaustion, no appetite. Classic somatization. Then came that day at the mall. During yet another blind date, I spotted a wife confronting a mistress on the floor below. Watching that woman fight for herself, I felt something crack open inside me. I thought, I want to be that brave. I don't want to be the good girl anymore. I don't want to be anyone's puppet. If anyone tries to guilt-trip me again, I'll go absolutely feral. I had about 3 seconds of that beautiful awakening before I leaned too far over the railing and fell 6 stories. But rebirth is good. A fresh start with a new identity. Yes, I landed in the body of a villain, but nobody on my father's side knows what the original Shen Man was like. 3 years of quiet living in Suzhou was enough to reshape the neighbors' impressions and, more importantly, to heal myself. No more depression. No more numbness. Those 3 years without the space were hard. I survived on whatever my grandfather and mother had left behind, staying careful, staying small. I couldn't go to college. Universities aren't open yet in this era. After high school, there was nothing left to do but come here. My plan was simple. If the arranged fiancé was decent looking with a good character, I'd marry him. Love can grow after marriage. That's how most people do it in this time. And if love never came? Fine. Have a kid, ditch the husband, raise the child alone. A child is enough. When I got the space, my first fear was that it might be one of those systems from transmigration novels, the kind that forces you to complete missions or face punishment. My high school desk mate used to read those gut-wrenching system novels, and the trauma stuck with me. But no. What I got is a sweet little spirit animal that loves egg cake, a beautiful courtyard full of lotus flowers, and powers that far exceed what the novel's heroine ever had. I think I'm going to be just fine. At dinner, Zhang Xuemei didn't come downstairs. Claimed she wasn't feeling well. Grandfather didn't care one bit. He said she's the type who acts like a queen the moment there's no one watching. It was during his 3 months in the sanatorium that she'd engineered the whole fake marriage scheme. He's completely given up on my father now. Doesn't want to spend his final years under that woman's thumb. Grandfather loaded my plate with ribs and told me to eat more. He talked about my brother. Lu Xiaobai is a battalion commander now, which means he gets assigned housing in the military family compound. Grandfather said if I meet any nice women on the island, I should try to set my brother up. An extra person in the household means one more person watching my back. As for my own future husband, Grandfather has only one requirement: that I like him. If he turns out good, Grandfather will bless us. If he turns out bad, Grandfather will personally march over and train him into shape. We ate and talked and laughed. My father sat at the same table like a ghost. invisible, unneeded. He chewed his food in silence, the only proof he was still alive. After dinner, I watched television with grandfather until 8:30. He turned it off himself and sent me to bed. That's when my father appeared in the hallway. He smelled faintly of cigarette smoke, looked exhausted, and his eyes were practically begging. Man, can we talk in the study? He wanted to explain the past. He wanted to tell me he'd never forgotten us. He wanted to know about my mother's final years, whether she'd been happy, whether she'd mentioned him. I agreed. On the way in, I caught a shadow on the staircase. Zhang Xuemei, eavesdropping. Good. Let her hear everything. I walked into the study behind my father and deliberately left the door cracked open, just enough. We sat down. The air felt heavy. I didn't waste time. What do you want to know, Dad? His voice shook. Did your mother? Was she alone all those years? Or did she remarry? I kept my tone flat and distant. After the divorce, Mom took me back to Suzhou. We lived in grandfather's old house, just the two of us, for 12 years. Several men pursued her. She turned them all down. I watched those words land. Every one of them hit exactly where I aimed. My father buried his face in his hands and cried. I knew it. She still loved me. I'm the one who failed her. It's all my fault. I lower my eyes to hide what I was really feeling. Because the truth is, Mom didn't stay single out of love for him. She stayed single because her marriage to him had destroyed her faith in men entirely. Auntie Gu told me everything. Mom was a warm, beautiful, kind, clear-headed woman. She chose to raise her daughter alone not because she was pining for this man, but because she'd learned what trusting a man costs. But I didn't correct him. Let him believe she loved him till the end. Let that guilt eat him alive for the rest of his life. And behind the door, I could feel Zhang Xuemei's poisonous stare burning into my back. I knew exactly what she was thinking. The man she'd schemed and fought to steal still had another woman in his heart. A dead woman. And she can never compete with a ghost. How does a living woman fight someone who's already gone? She can't. That's the point. I smiled inside. Then I pulled out an old green handkerchief. It had belonged to the original Shen Man's mother, and handed it to my crying father. Don't be sad, Dad. Mom is watching from heaven. Definitely laughing at you, I finished silently. He pressed the handkerchief to his chest, sobbing.
I'm sorry, Qingluo.
I'm sorry. I had to pinch my own thigh to keep from smiling. Then I let my voice tremble just slightly and said, Dad, when I was little, the other kids used to bully me. They called me a bastard, a wild child with no father. And Mom, people spread awful rumors about her too. She suffered so much. I used to ask her, who is my dad? Where is he? She would just cry and hold me tight and clean my wounds. I used to think, if only I had a tall, strong father, maybe Mom and I wouldn't have to live like that. Every word was a knife, and I twisted each one slowly. I wanted him to live the rest of his days drowning in guilt. No quick death. No relief. Just the slow, endless ache of knowing exactly what he threw away. He broke completely.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Behind the door, Zhang Xuemei watched her husband weep over another woman's memory, and the hatred in her eyes deepened. A thorn planted in both their hearts, him and her. That will never come out. A scumbag's tears are no different from a crocodile's. I didn't feel a shred of sympathy. If anything, I had to fight the urge to laugh. After I left the study, Zhang Xuemei was still lurking in the shadows, listening to every word. I know exactly what she's feeling right now. Fury, jealousy, and helplessness all twisted together. She recognized what I did in there. The sad voice, the childhood stories, the handkerchief. All of it was calculated to make my father drown in guilt while she watched from the crack in the door.
She's not stupid.
She knows I was pouring poison into her marriage, drop by drop. But she can't do anything about it.
Not now.
Her daughter's secret is still hanging by a thread, and starting a fight with me would only make things worse. So she went to bed without leaving a light on for her husband, lying there in the dark, cursing me. She's probably wishing I'd get kidnapped by traffickers on my way to the island, sold to some mountain village, never to return. Then she rubbed her belly and fell into her old fantasy. If only she could have a child with Liu family blood. That would make her untouchable. She's planning to visit a hospital and get her body checked. She still doesn't know my mother made sure that would never happen. Back in my room, I washed up, filled my hot water bottle, and sat on the bed brushing my hair. Tang Yuan was rolling around with a ball of yarn, full of questions. It had seen my father's qi in the study. White, meaning he's fundamentally a good person, even carrying faint golden merit from his military service. Still loves my mother, clearly. So why did he divorce her and marry someone else? I explained it simply. Being a good person doesn't make you a good husband or a good father. His dying comrade asked him to look after the man's widow and daughter. That wasn't wrong, but he was weak and indecisive. He let Zhang Xuemei and her daughter take over the household until they acted more like the real family than we ever did. Zhang Xuemei isn't innocent either. She saw my father as her only ladder to a better life and climbed it without shame. Maybe he never cheated on my mother. Maybe he never touched Zhang Xuemei before the divorce. But his repaying a debt of gratitude dragged the whole family down. My mother had to make the agonizing choice to divorce in an era where that brings nothing but shame and gossip. Whatever invisible suffering pushed her to that decision, my father caused it. Both of them are guilty. Tang Yuan was confused. If I hate him so much, why did I comfort him? Why the handkerchief? I tapped its little nose. He's not worth forgiving. But his monthly salary is worth collecting. Why let Zhang Xuemei and her daughter have it when I can drain it myself while his guilt is fresh? Money is always useful. And I'm curious to see how my dear stepsister manages without the space, without the spiritual water, and without my father's financial support. Can the great heroine still rise to the top on her own? Let's find out. Tang Yuan didn't fully understand but promised to train hard, recover its powers, and find treasures so it could earn its own keep. Sweet little thing. I pulled the covers up, hugged my hot water bottle, and drifted off. The room went dark except for Tang Yuan's mismatched glowing eyes watching over me. Far away, in a tropical rainforest, my brother Liu Xiaobai was having quite a different night. He and 3 teammates were crawling out of a mud pit, covered head to toe in muck, hiding from a swarm of giant hornets. All 4 were bandaged in various places, carrying guns and injuries alike. They'd been in this jungle for half a month on a military mission. Over 100 soldiers went in, and fewer than 10 would come out as selected elite fighters. My brother's squad held 4 of those spots. My brother has the strangest luck. His teammates can't figure him out. One minute they're dodging hornets in a swamp. The next minute he stumbles right onto the mission objective that everyone's been searching for. Their captain verified it, mission complete. They could finally fire the signal flare and call for helicopter extraction. One teammate asked him what kind of body he has finding things by accident like that. My brother grinned and said grandfather had his fortune read when he was a child. The fortune teller said he was born with a noble destiny. Danger always turns to safety. Bad luck always flips to good. 3 seconds after he said that, a snake bit his ankle. He collapsed unconscious. His captain killed the snake with 1 strike, found a local herb, crushed it, and packed it onto the wound. Almost immediately, the helicopter appeared overhead. Rescue arrived just in time. That's my brother. Lucky and unlucky in the same breath, every single time. The other soldiers said joining his squad is like riding a roller coaster, terrifying and rewarding in equal measure. They loaded him onto the helicopter.
He'll be fine. Probably.
I guess reckless courage runs in the family. While I was falling asleep in the capital, my brother was fighting for his life on the other side of the country. The helicopter brought his team to a military base near the border. Liu Xiaobai was burning with fever, lips turning blue-black from the snake venom, barely conscious. He was clutching someone's clothing and wouldn't let go, mumbling about our mother and me. His squad leader, a man called Jiang Yi, a notorious neat freak, almost broke his hand off before another teammate, Gongzi, tickled my brother's armpit to make him release his grip. In his fever dream, my brother saw our grandmother and our mother, smiling, waving him back to the living. He was looking for me too, even in his delirium. Where's my sister? When he finally woke up, the first thing he smelled was Gongzi's feet. His teammate had taken off his shoes and fallen asleep on the next bed. My brother nearly vomited. He said he might survive the snake bite, but the foot odor would definitely kill him. After the drama settled, a messenger delivered a telegram from grandfather. My brother's face lit up like the sun when he read it. His little sister was coming to the island to find him. Then reality hit. Our parents divorced 15 years ago. Mom took me and cut off all contact. No letters, no calls, nothing. Now suddenly I'm showing up at the capital and heading to the island? Where's Mom? And why is grandfather telling him to find me a husband instead of mentioning my arranged marriage to Gu Tingchen? Something was very wrong. His smile faded and his fist crumpled the telegram. His teammate Gongzi perked up immediately. You have a sister? How old? Does she have a boyfriend? My brother snapped at him to back off. She just turned 18, don't even think about it. Then came a knock at the door. Jiang Yi, the man who'd just been promoted to regiment commander, the same rank my brother has been stuck competing for. They'd enlisted at the same time, trained together, shared a bunk for 6 years. But Jiang Yi kept leaping ahead. This jungle mission was supposed to be my brother's chance to close the gap, and instead Jiang Yi got the promotion again. My brother was furious about it, but couldn't deny that Jiang Yi's medical team and blood serum supply had saved his life. Jiang Yi leaned against the doorframe, hands in his pockets, and said with a perfectly straight face, "Just checking if you're dead yet. Loser." My brother nearly burst a blood vessel. But then he got an idea. He put on his most pitiful face and asked Jiang Yi for a favor. The only person he trusts enough for this job. Jiang Yi was immediately suspicious, and rightfully so. Years of rivalry will do that. My brother explained. His sister is arriving at the island in 5 days, and he's stuck in a hospital bed wrapped up like a dumpling. He needs someone to pick me up at the dock. But here's the thing. He told Jiang Yi that his sister has been chubby since childhood with a plain face, and he doesn't want her subjected to strange looks from other soldiers. Jiang Yi would be the most respectful option. Then my brother added, very casually, "Don't worry, she just turned 18. I'd never try to set you two up. When I find her a match, it'll be someone her own age." That did it. Jiang Yi is famously picky. He's rejected every woman anyone has ever introduced him to. Hearing that I'm young, chubby, and ordinary-looking put him completely at ease. No matchmaking risk. He agreed. My brother smiled gratefully on the outside. Inside, he was doing an evil victory dance. I have a feeling my brother just set up something he hasn't fully thought through. Telling a man I'm chubby and plain when I look almost exactly like our mother. The woman people described as untouchable as clouds, flawless as jade? This should be interesting. That same night, far away, Jiang Yi escorted a shipment of supplies back to the island while my brother stayed in the hospital. Gongzi caught my brother grinning like a maniac in bed and actually asked the doctor if the snake venom had damaged his brain. The doctor checked the chart and said no. My brother was laughing because he'd tricked Jiang Yi into picking me up, telling him I was chubby and plain. But then the laughter turned to tears. He remembered the last time our mother held him, right before the divorce. She told him that if something ever happened to her, she'd send me back to find him, and he should take care of me. Now here I am, coming alone. He knows what that probably means about Mom. At the train station in the capital, I said my goodbyes. I gave grandfather a long list of instructions. Take care of his health. Send telegrams to me and my brother regularly. The grape wine in my room needs 2 to 3 months before it's ready. Don't open it early. And when it is ready, only 1 cup a day. I'd also made him medicinal wine with spiritual liquid mixed in. That one would be ready in a month, and the effects would be immediate. I asked him to have Lily check on Old Man Sue and the other elderly folks in the alley once a month. Grandfather agreed, without hesitation. He'd already had Lily look into their backgrounds. They're just lonely, struggling people, no harm in helping. What grandfather doesn't know is that I discovered something. When I help those people, thin golden threads of merit appear on my body. Tang Yuan says it's karmic reward. The more you accumulate, the better your resistance against illness and danger. If grandfather keeps helping them through Lily, he'll gather merit too. The train appeared on the horizon. My father, who'd been standing there like a shadow the entire time, finally spoke. Take care of yourself, man. I'll send you spending money every month. I looked at him properly for the first time that morning. He looked terrible, gaunt, exhausted.
Good.
But not too terrible. I need him functional. He's no use to me if he collapses. I need him alive and guilty, slowly tormenting Zhang Xuemei from the inside. So, I played my part perfectly. Thank you, Dad. Take care of yourself, too. Translation: stay healthy enough to keep fighting with your wife. Grandfather's health isn't great. Don't make him angry. Be patient with him. Translation: he's your father, and heaven will strike you down if you're not filial. Zhang Auntie and Manman did something wrong, but what's done is done. I hope the family stays peaceful. I don't want to dwell on who's right or wrong. Translation: just a little reminder that you betrayed your own daughter, so you can feel guilty about it forever. When I see my brother, I'll talk to him and make sure he doesn't blame you. Translation: absolutely not. I'm going to trash talk you and Zhang Xuemei until my brother despises you both. Then we'll bring grandfather to live with us and leave you and that woman drowning in gossip and misery. My father heard all this and felt deeply ashamed of how generous and understanding his daughter is. Last night, Zhang Xuemei had whispered in his ear that I came back for revenge, to destroy their marriage. Now he felt terrible for even listening to her. If only she could hear how considerate his daughter is being. He thought to himself, he should have died on that mission years ago. At least then, he wouldn't have lost the woman he loved and ended up married to someone he doesn't want. All these years, he spent most nights in his study. He rarely touches Zhang Xuemei. The few times he did, he was drunk and mistook her for my mother.
He knows he's tainted.
That's why my mother never visits his dreams. Grandfather rolled his eyes at his son and told Little Lee to escort me onto the train and get my luggage settled. The car grandfather arranged for me turned out to be a private sleeper compartment with a locking door, the kind of compartment normally reserved for high-ranking officials. Little Lee handed me the key on a string and explained that grandfather wanted his only granddaughter safe. Everything on the train had been arranged. Stay in the compartment, only go out for the washroom, and in 3 days, my brother would meet me at the station exit. I locked the door behind me after Little Lee left. Privilege is real in every era. I'm borrowing grandfather's, and as long as it doesn't hurt anyone else, I'm not going to feel bad about it. I opened the window, pulled off my scarf, and waved at grandfather standing on the platform. Goodbye, Grandpa. Goodbye. I gave him one last look, a little wink that said, don't worry, I'll find a husband fast, settle down, and come get you out of that house as soon as I can. He understood. He always does. The 3 days on the train passed quietly. I barely left my compartment, just for meals and the washroom. Saved the people watching over me a lot of trouble, and kept any trouble from finding me. I used the time well. I explored every corner of the space, organized all my supplies, and set up a little personal area in the courtyard room where I could rest. Tang Yuan was busy too. I hadn't managed to buy live chickens, but I'd traded for fertilized eggs, and Tang Yuan built a little straw nest in the courtyard corner and started sitting on them like a broody hen. It would nibble egg cake when hungry and sip spiritual water from the pond when thirsty. It was excited about reaching the island. I'd promised it fresh ocean fish and shrimp, and as an inland cat spirit who'd never tasted seafood, it could barely contain itself. I collected spiritual liquid into the jade bottle every day, but only used 1 drop in my drinking water to slowly improve my body. The rest I saved. I have a feeling I'll need it. As the train slowed and the temperature rose, I changed out of my heavy winter coat into light spring clothes and packed my quilt into the space. I had 2 suitcases, my small one with a change of clothes and toiletries, and a large one grandfather had packed full of food and supplies. Heavy as a boulder, but it had 4 wheels. The conductor knocked on my door when we arrived. He'd been kind the whole trip, told me to wait 5 minutes after stopping so I wouldn't get crushed in the crowd. I thanked him and waited. Tang Yuan begged to come out and see the world after 3 days of exiting. I tucked it into my crossbody bag, its fuzzy little head poking out, blue eyes wide with wonder. When the platform cleared, I grabbed both suitcases and made my way through the exit tunnel. I spotted him immediately, a tall man in a green military overcoat, holding a sign, looking impatient. He was incredibly handsome. Tall, broad-shouldered, radiating that feeling of safety I'd been craving. My heart swelled. My brother. After 15 years. Our eyes met. Something electric passed between us. I couldn't help myself. I dropped my suitcases and ran straight into his arms. Brother, my voice came out soft and sweet, the Suzhou accent making it sound even more affectionate. I felt him stiffen, then his hand instinctively settled on my waist. The cigarette he'd been about to light fell from his lips. I looked up at his face, beaming. Brother, have you been waiting long? He didn't answer. He just stared at me. His eyes were deep and dark, and something in them looked
stunned.
Not the joyful reunion I'd imagined.
No cheers, no lauger, no broter liberug.
He seemed like he'd lost the ability to speak. Brother? I tilted my head, confused. Was he not happy to see me? Stand still, he finally said, his voice low and flat. He steadied me on my feet, then stepped back.
He wouldn't look me in the eye.
Then he took off his military coat, shook it out, and draped it over my shoulders. The thing swallowed me whole. I looked like a wrapped rice dumpling with just my head sticking out. I'll take you to lunch first, then get you settled. That was it. He went to grab my suitcases without another word. I stood there, bundled in his coat, smelling the faint scent of soap on the fabric.
Clean.
He's a neat person. Grandfather had described my brother as warm and affectionate, the kind of big brother who doted on his little sister. This man seemed cold on the outside, but perhaps warm underneath. Maybe 6 years in the military had changed him, made him quieter, more guarded. The black and white photo grandfather had shown me was so worn from years of touching that I could barely make out features, just a blurry outline. So, I couldn't compare this face to the boy in the picture. But he's my brother. He came to pick me up. That's what matters. I told myself, people change. He left home at a young age. Of course his personality shifted. He's probably just not good at showing emotions anymore. It's fine. We have time. Brother, I'm not your brother Liu Xiaobai. My name is Zhang Yi. I'm your brother's closest comrade. He's injured, so he sent me to pick you up. My face turned bright red. I'd already thrown myself into this man's arms, called him brother, and climbed into his jeep. And now he tells me he's not my brother? I wanted to disappear. Is my brother's injury serious? I managed, trying to recover some dignity. Snake venom hasn't fully cleared. He needs to stay in the hospital for observation. I'll take care of your housing and meals in the meantime. Thank you, Zhang Yi. Brother. I added the brother out of habit. Calling a stranger by just his name felt too awkward. He squeezed out a stiff, no trouble, and went completely silent. His face was cold and unreadable, the kind of man who looks unapproachable even when he's trying not to be. Then Tang Yuan went absolutely feral inside my bag. Through our bond, it was screaming, Master, this man is a child of fortune. His purple chi is incredibly dense. Let me get close and absorb some. He's practically a walking treasure. I told it to calm down. He's not my brother. I can't just go around touching him. Then Tang Yuan shifted tactics. Master, look at him. Broad shoulders, narrow waist, long legs, radiating masculine energy even while sitting. Isn't he perfect? You said you came here to find a military husband. This one is right here. I mentally told it to shut up. A man this good-looking probably has a girlfriend already. I'm not about to be the other woman. Tang Yuan's ears drooped dramatically. It lay flat on my lap, kneading my knee with its paws, sulking. It just wanted to absorb some of that sweet, sweet fortune chi. You like cats? Zhang Yi finally broke the silence, clearly desperate for something to say.
Yes. This is Tang Yuan.
Just weaned, isn't it cute? I held the kitten up for him to see. He slowed the car and said, Very cute. He wasn't looking at the cat. We reached a small restaurant near the port. The ferry to the island wouldn't arrive until 1:30, so we had time for lunch. Zhang Yi walked up to the kitchen window where a man in an apron was working. Zhouji, I brought a friend's sister. Make a couple dishes a young girl would like. The cook tried to crane his neck to peek at me. Well, you never bring girls here. Let me make something special. Zhang Yi blocked the man's view with his entire body, pushed some food tickets through the window, and said flatly, Cook fast. She's hungry. The cook whistled under his breath and got to work. He clearly thought I was more than just a friend's sister. Jiangyi came back with a thermos of hot water. He scalded a cup with boiling water, poured it out, refilled it, and placed it within my reach. Then he grabbed 2 sets of bowls and chopsticks, rinsed them with hot water too, and set them in front of me. Every movement was precise, clean, careful. I watched his hands, strong, defined knuckles, powerful but gentle. The kind of hands that make you want to just hold them and study every line. Focus, Shen Man, your accent, you're from Suzhou? He asked, sitting across from me, posture perfectly straight, trying to seem casual. I explained that yes, my maternal grandfather was from Suzhou. After my parents' divorce, my mother took me there, and I grew up speaking the local dialect. My voice naturally comes out soft and sweet, that lilting Suzhou accent that sounds like you're flirting even when you're ordering noodles. Back home I'd call an older brother, Aji, but in the capital I'd gotten used to the more formal, Gigi. That's why I'd seen a man holding a sign with my name, assumed he was my brother, and launched myself at a complete stranger. Still wearing his massive military coat that dragged past my ankles, I probably looked like a penguin shuffling around. If the coat had been black and white instead of army green, the resemblance would have been perfect. Tang Yuan kept pestering me through our bond. Master, at least ask if he has a girlfriend. Even if you don't care about fortune Qi, think about your future. He's your brother's best friend. His character must be solid. First come, first served. Please, master, think about this. I didn't respond, but I didn't say no, either. And honestly, those hands. That height, he's at least 6'3", and the top of my head barely reaches his chest. The way he'd instinctively put his hand on my waist when I hugged him. The way he'd draped his coat over me without being asked. The way he wouldn't look directly at me, like he was afraid his sharp eyes might scare me. Tang Yuan might have a point, but I'm not going to rush anything. I just got here. Let me eat lunch first. Jiangyi, does my brother have a girlfriend? No. How did he describe me to you? He said you were a chubby little kid who liked playing in the mud. My fingers went white around my cup. I mentally opened my grudge notebook and wrote my brother's name in big letters. We haven't even met yet, and he's already spreading lies about me. You're not fat. And not ugly. He was wrong. Jiangyi said this quickly, like he realized he'd made a mistake by repeating it. Before I could stay angry, the food arrived. Tomato scrambled eggs and sweet and sour spare ribs. My rage evaporated instantly. The cook, Zhouji, leaned out to get a good look at me, eyes lighting up, then immediately asked how old I was. Was I even an adult? I told him I was. He visibly relaxed, glanced at Jiangyi, caught a death glare, and scurried back to his kitchen. Clearly, he thought I was Jiangyi's girl and just wanted to make sure nothing illegal was happening. Jiangyi asked if I wanted rice or steamed buns. Before I could answer, he'd already pushed both dishes toward me, scooped rice into a bowl, and packed it down so tight it could have been used as a brick. He had no concept of how much a small woman actually eats. I got the bowl shoved into my hands with a gentle, "Eat while it's hot." I ate half and was completely full. Normal appetite. 1 regular bowl is plenty. But Jiangyi had given me enough rice for a soldier. When I put down my chopsticks, he confirmed I was done, then took my bowl, dumped my leftover rice onto the egg plate, poured the remaining rib sauce over it, and ate the whole thing in big mouthfuls. My leftovers. Without a flicker of hesitation. Tang Yuan went wild in my head. Master, this man has designs on you. He's absolutely smitten. His eyes when he looks at you are not innocent. I looked more carefully at Jiangyi. We'd known each other for a couple of hours. Was this really how you treat your buddy's little sister? Eating her leftover rice without batting an eye? That seems like something else entirely. Food is precious. Can't waste it, he said flatly. His explanation would have been more convincing if the tips of his ears weren't turning cherry red. I decided to test the waters. Jiangyi, do you have a girlfriend? Are you married? No. How old are you? 24. Same as my brother, he answered each question while shoveling down the last of the food, trying desperately to appear casual. But the fine sweat on his forehead and his tight grip on the water cup gave him away completely. Then he picked up a cup, drained it in 1 gulp, and was about to suggest we leave, When I smiled and said, "Jiangyi," that was my cup, his entire face turned crimson. He'd just realized that drinking from my cup meant he'd indirectly.
Well.
He looked like he wanted the floor to swallow him.
So pure.
So easy to read. I pulled back and switched to my innocent little sister mode. Shouldn't we head to the dock to buy ferry tickets? It's getting late. The flirty tension between us popped like a soap bubble. Jiangyi seemed almost relieved. The loss of control had clearly rattled him.
He's not used to feeling this way.
Good. Neither am I, honestly. He's attractive, I won't pretend otherwise. Tall, clean, attentive, strong hands, good manners, single, same age as my brother, clearly interested in me. He checks a lot of boxes. But I'm not the type to fall for the first handsome face I see. He goes on my list of candidates. I need to look around more, meet more people, take my time.
No ruse.
Tang Yuan was utterly baffled. It had watched the whole exchange and thought we were about to confess our feelings. Then suddenly nothing? The pink bubbles just vanished? Its tiny brain couldn't compute. Poor little spirit cat has never read a romance novel. If it had, it would know this is just the beginning, the testing, the teasing, the careful dance two people do before anything real begins. Have you ever seen the ocean? The sea breeze is salty. And the water near the dock isn't the beautiful blue you'd imagine. It's muddy and churning. Jiangyi explained that the waves stir up sediment near shore, but once we reach the island, there are coral reefs where the water is crystal clear, blue as sapphires on a good day. He was driving his Jeep slowly behind a supply truck, waiting in line for the ferry. The afternoon sun hit him just right, golden light on sharp features, sleeves rolled up to his elbows showing tanned, muscular forearms, sea wind messing up his neat black hair in a way that somehow made him look even better. I rested my chin on my hand and stared without shame. He really is unfairly handsome. Asked about life on the island, whether people go beachcombing when the tide goes out, whether you can find pretty shells and little fish. He said military wives and local fishermen do it all the time, and he offered to take time off to bring me if I wanted to try. Then I asked where I'd be living once we arrived. He asked if I had an introduction letter. I did. Grandfather had arranged a new one for me. And I added cheerfully, Grandfather gave me a mission too. What mission? He told me to find a husband on the island. Get married quickly, settle down, and then bring him here to retire. Zhang Ye's eyes stopped avoiding mine. They locked onto me, intense and unwavering. What are your requirements for a husband? Tang Yuan, half asleep on my lap, snapped awake and flipped over to eavesdrop, ears standing straight up. I picked it up and scolded it gently. Little pervert cat. I let the silence stretch, petting Tang Yuan lazily, feeling his gaze burn hotter and hotter on my skin. Then I answered. He needs to be handsome, good build, military rank no lower than battalion commander, good temper. As for age, Zhang Ye's expression went rigid at the word age. Anywhere within 10 years older is fine. My grandfather says older men know how to take care of you and can handle a girl's bad moods. This wasn't something I made up. Those were grandfather's exact words. No one younger than me. No one the same age. Too much bickering. Someone older, but not too much older. First marriage, no kids, decent rank, good salary. Someone who can afford to spoil me. Jiangyi, 24, 6 years older than me, single, no children, recently promoted, processed every word. Then he said, almost defensively, your temper isn't bad. I covered my smile with my hand.
So,
Jiangyi, are you saying you want to pursue me? I heard his heartbeat speed up. Or maybe that was mine. Yes. One word.
no hesitation.
Then you'd better work hard. You have to get past my brother first. I smiled at him, and the wind blew a strand of hair away from my neck. He looked, then looked away quickly. His hand went to the cigarette pack in his pocket, fingers brushing the box. Then he stopped and pulled his hand out empty. He'd been a smoker for years, using it to handle stress and loneliness. He'd always figured he'd be alone forever, so why bother quitting? Now there was something more important than cigarettes. The car went quiet. Neither of us spoke. The silence felt electric. Tang Yuan broke the moment by freaking out about the ferry, a massive passenger ship pulling into dock. It was excited for about 2 seconds before it started whimpering. Not seasickness. It could see black chi on the ship, dark energy that means bad people. Lots of it. The little spirit felt awful just being near it. Black chi? Bad people on the ferry? I filed that away and held Tangyuan tighter. Jiangyi drove the jeep into the ship's cargo hold behind the supply truck, then guided me through a passenger walkway into the cabin. He found us a window seat, wiped the chair with his sleeve before letting me sit, stowed my bags, and pulled out a packet of preserved plums. If you get seasick, put one in your mouth. I thanked him sweetly and took the plums. I don't get seasick, but Tangyuan was already green, tongue hanging out. I'd slip the plum to Tangyuan later and pop an orange candy in my own mouth as cover. When I said thank you, something flickered across his face, a hungry, tender look he quickly suppressed. He wanted to kiss me. I could tell. But he turned away, busying himself asking if I was thirsty, offering to fetch water. The second he left, a group of cheerful aunties wearing blue headscarves descended on me like friendly vultures. Little sister, your brother is so good to you. Is your brother married? Want auntie to introduce someone. How old are you? Are you an adult? My nephew is about your age. I ducked my head and pretended to be shy. If I opened my mouth, these women would never stop. The Suzhou accent would only make things worse. They'd find me even more adorable and the matchmaking would intensify tenfold. So I sat there silently, wrapped in Jiang Ye's oversized military coat, clutching a seasick spirit cat in my bag, surrounded by enthusiastic matchmakers, waiting for a man who isn't my brother to come back with water. My new life on the island hasn't even started yet, and it's already more eventful than I expected. Jiang Yi went to get hot water and had to wait in line like everyone else, 4 taps, long queue. The moment he left, the aunties swarmed me. Little girl, consider my nephew. He's 20, big and strong, works as a communications officer, makes over 30 yuan a month. Forget her nephew. My son works at the seafood processing plant. He's already a team leader, 50 yuan a month. Listen to me instead. I know several unmarried officers, all good looking. Take your pick. When Jiang Yi came back carrying the hot water, he heard every word. His face went dark. They were poaching right in front of him. Excuse me, he said, squeezing past them. Then, in a tone that was polite on the surface, the ship's about to depart. You should all sit down before you lose your balance and break something. The aunties didn't catch the edge in his voice. They just saw a respectable-looking military officer giving a friendly warning and cheerfully returned to their seats. Jiang Yi sat down next to me, speechless. Literally speechless. Tangyuan was laughing so hard inside my bag its stomach hurt, little eyes peeking out to watch the show, until I stuffed a preserved plum in its mouth to shut it up. The ferry was old but functional. Wrapped in Jiang Ye's coat, I wasn't cold at all. With the matchmaking aunties finally quiet, I could enjoy the view. Far out on the water, a white naval warship was passing by, a red flag flying from its mast. Something about that sight stirred a deep, instinctive pride in my chest. For the next half hour, neither of us spoke. The aunties dozed off. Everything was peaceful. Then Tangyuan snapped alert. Master, bad people. I was instantly awake. Using the excuse of shifting in my seat, I scanned the cabin. What's wrong? Jiang Yi asked quietly, sharp eyes already studying me. I drank too much water, I whispered, embarrassed. Where's the washroom? That was my cover. What I'd actually spotted, thanks to Tangyuan, was the source of the black chi. A young couple sitting along the aisle, holding a small sleeping boy. Something about that child's sleep wasn't right. His body was too still, too limp, no natural movement at all. I needed to get closer to confirm what I suspected. We stood up. As we approached, I watched the couple react. The man shifted his legs and pulled a worn bag closer to his body. The woman hunched over the child protectively, eyes darting to signal her partner. Sweat was beading on the man's forehead despite the thin clothes he wore. The woman wouldn't look up, clutching the boy like a shield. Everything about them screamed guilty. Right as we passed them, I pretended to stumble. Oh no, I fell forward, bumping into the woman. I'm so sorry. My leg went numb. Did I hurt you, sister? The woman swallowed whatever curse she'd been about to spit out. My soft, sweet voice disarmed her. It's fine. Just watch where you're going. In those few seconds of contact, I pressed my fingers against the boy's wrist. A quick pulse check, just a couple of seconds, then I pulled away and smiled sweetly. Thank you, sister. Jiangyi guided me into the corridor, giving the couple a casual nod as we passed. We acted like nothing had happened. The couple whispered to each other after we left, then quickly moved to a different section of the cabin. The boy in the woman's arms never stirred. Not once. Not even a twitch. Once they were gone, I peeked out from around a corner. Tang Yuan's head popped out of my bag beside mine. Master, both of them have black qi. They're bad people. That little boy has been drugged heavily. If he doesn't get treatment within 12 hours, even if he wakes up, he'll be permanently brain damaged. I told Tang Yuan not to worry. That boy's fate isn't sealed yet. He ran into me and Jiangyi. That counts for something. Then Tang Yuan added nervously, Master, you should probably figure out how to explain to the big boss why you acted so strangely back there. How did you know something was wrong with that couple? I turned around. Jiangyi was standing right behind me. Those deep, piercing eyes, the kind that can see through any lie, were fixed on my face, waiting. My carefully prepared excuse died in my throat. Jiangyi, that couple has a problem. Noted. Still need the washroom. Yes. I wasn't lying, I really did need to go. While I was inside, Jiangyi opened some kind of emergency panel in the corridor and pressed a button. Someone showed up quickly. They exchanged whispers, and the person went off to find the suspicious couple. Tang Yuan fretted about whether Jiangyi would get suspicious of me. I told it to relax. I studied medicine. Noticing something wrong with a drugged child is perfectly normal for someone with my background. Nothing to explain. When I came out of the washroom, Jiangyi was waiting in the corridor. Even just standing there doing nothing, the light seemed to favor him. We walked back to our seats without discussing the couple. Neither of us brought it up. We just understood each other. We'd barely sat down when trouble found me again, this time in the form of a bold young woman. The ship was carrying a group of educated youth volunteers heading to the island to plant rubber trees. Most were girls, and they'd been too seasick to notice us before. But now the announcement said we'd arrive in 15 minutes, and they opened their eyes to find a strikingly handsome military officer sitting protectively beside a pretty girl in an oversized army coat. One of them, Yuan Qingqing, marched right over. Little sister, are you a volunteer here to plant rubber trees too? Her eyes were glued to Jiangyi, not me. No, I'm not a volunteer. I'm here for other reasons. Her tone sharpened when Jiangyi didn't even glance at her. You're not a volunteer? Then what are you doing on this island? Before I could respond, Jiangyi cut in without looking up from the water bottle he was opening. Man, don't talk to irrelevant people. Here, drink some water. Okay, Jiangyi, I took the water obediently. If people are polite to me, I'm polite back. If they're rude, I don't mind letting them lose face. Yuan Qingqing started to snap back, but another girl called her away. A soft-spoken young woman named Ji Xianxian. I glanced over and noticed something funny. She had the exact same hairstyle as me. Long, straight, black, parted down the middle. But her features weren't as refined. I'm not being vain. I just haven't met anyone who looks better than me yet. Yuan Qingqing retreated, but she was clearly plotting revenge for next time. Somehow I'd earned an enemy without doing a single thing. All because of the male disaster sitting next to me. Said disaster kept trying to feed me water. Cup after cup. By the third one, I glared at him. No more. He almost smiled, like someone testing how far they can push a cat before it swipes. Our interaction looked nothing like siblings. We looked like a couple in the honeymoon phase of dating. Ji Xianxian watched us for a moment, trying to figure out our relationship, then looked away. She'd probably see us again on the island. Then, everything exploded. Screaming erupted from the forward cabin. Running footsteps. Shouts of, "Stop him," and, "Put down the knife." The man from the suspicious couple burst into our cabin, head covered in blood, gripping a dagger, eyes wild with rage. He'd somehow broken free from whoever had confronted him. The aunties and the young volunteer girls screamed. Complete chaos. "Don't be scared. Get behind me." Jiang Ye's voice was perfectly calm. He even took the cup lid from my hands and screwed it back onto the thermos before standing up. The man spotted me. His bloodshot eyes locked on. It was you. You did this to me. I'll kill you. He charged straight at us, dagger raised. Ji Xianxian froze, eyes wide, watching Jiang Yi shield me with his body, while I stood behind him looking completely unbothered. Something like jealousy flickered in her expression. Jiang Yi moved like a machine. In one fluid motion, he hurled the metal thermos at the man's wrist. Direct hit. The dagger clattered to the floor. Then a single sweeping kick to the chest sent the man flying several meters backward. He crashed into a row of seats, screamed, and crumpled to the ground unconscious. The ship's security team arrived seconds later. Commander Jiang, thank you for stepping in. We'll take the suspect for questioning. We may need your cooperation later. The cabin went dead silent. Everyone stared at the spot where a man had just been kicked across the room by the tall officer who, 30 seconds ago, had been gently coaxing a girl to drink water. Nobody tried to introduce me to their nephews after that. The aunties were so grateful after watching Jiang Yi take down the knife-wielding man that they immediately wanted to know if he had a girlfriend. He shut that down fast. Please step aside. We have things to do. Before I could say a word, he wrapped my scarf around my neck, twice, and tied it in a knot so tight I'd need scissors to undo it. Then he marched me through an interior corridor straight back to the jeep without giving me a single chance to speak. Tang Yuan was internally swooning. The man has brains, fighting skills, and he's possessive. Master, fly bravely toward him, and Tang Yuan will follow forever. Maybe I should read those old romance novels the Liu ancestor left on the bookshelf. There might be useful manhandling techniques in there. In the ship's holding room, the couple had been restrained. A doctor examined the little boy and confirmed he'd been injected with a sedative strong enough to knock out an elephant. The child was in critical condition and needed immediate treatment at the military hospital. The two suspects would be taken to the island's armed forces department for interrogation. On the deck, passengers filed off carrying their bags, completely unaware of what had happened below. Even the gossipy aunties kept their mouths shut. In this era, enemy spies are everywhere. Patriotic duty means keeping quiet when it matters. In the jeep, I was genuinely annoyed. Jiang Yi had ruffled my hair, just reached over and messed it up like I was a puppy. A girl's hairstyle is not something you casually destroy. Couldn't help it. Won't happen again. Again? You're planning a next time? I pulled out my little mirror and horn comb and started fixing my hair strand by strand. Something else was bugging me too, that female volunteer, Ji Xianxian. She'd been watching us from the ox cart as we drove past. Through the window, she would have seen Jiang Yi ruffle my hair and smile. A real, unguarded smile, the kind he apparently only shows to one person. There won't be a next time, he corrected himself. Temporarily forgiven. I stopped calling him brother to make my displeasure clear. Then I asked about the kidnapped boy. What happens to him now? Jiang Yi explained they'd identify the child, trace his origins, contact his home district, and find his family. Then I decided to address the elephant in the room. I told him I'd studied traditional Chinese medicine and knew the basics. When I bumped into that woman on the ship, I checked the boy's pulse and confirmed he'd been drugged into unconsciousness. That's how I knew something was wrong. You studied Chinese medicine? Do you want to keep studying? Of course. But traditional medicine is dying. Western medicine is everywhere now. The old masters are either silenced or refuse to teach women. The ancient prescriptions, the herbal formulas, the classical texts, most of them are fragments or completely lost. The chain of knowledge is broken. I told him how in my previous life, though I framed it as general knowledge, I'd chosen Chinese medicine as my major. And everyone who'd praised me for becoming a doctor turned cold the moment they heard it wasn't Western medicine. Even at university, Chinese medicine courses were being replaced with Western ones. When I discovered how much had been lost, I jumped at a chance to study abroad on a government scholarship. A foreign university library had collected many ancient Chinese medical texts, wouldn't lend them out, wouldn't copy them, only admitted enrolled students. So I spent 4 years there, memorizing everything I could. I caught myself drifting too deep into memories and pulled back. Jiang Yi had been listening quietly, and something in his expression shifted, like he was looking at someone far away even though I was sitting right next to him. Then he said something that hit me hard. If you want to learn, learn. Chinese medicine or Western medicine. Both save lives and heal suffering. They're not enemies. They complement each other. I stared at him. Those were the exact words I'd needed to hear in my previous life. The exact perspective no one around me had ever offered. After a moment, I laughed. You sound like you're 80 years old. Are you sure you're the same age as my brother? You talk like you belong to my grandfather's generation. The moment it left my mouth, I felt the temperature in the car drop. Jiang Ye's lips pressed into a thin line. Apparently men are just as sensitive about being called old as women are. There was something behind his reaction too, a flicker of real worry, like he was hiding something about himself and was afraid I'd figure it out. I fidgeted with my fingers. I think I said the wrong thing.
Jiang Yi stopped talking to me.
At the military district guest house, I went through registration. Name, age, purpose of visit. I answered everything while the clerk carefully wrote it all down and checked my introduction letter. She gave me a room near the hot water station and handed me a brass key with a warning. Lose it, and they'll deduct 1 yuan from my deposit. Asked if the man who brought me could carry my heavy suitcase upstairs. The clerk looked Jiang Yi up and down, looked at the massive suitcase, and agreed. But he had exactly 5 minutes before he had to leave the women's floor. Jiang Yi carried the suitcase up without a word, checked every corner of my room, inspected the windows, the lock, the washroom, everything. The room was small but complete. A narrow bed, clean push-open windows, a tiny bathroom, a spotless desk, wooden floors. Good enough for one person. This'll do for now, he said. Once your brother recovers, we'll figure out a better arrangement. I'm not in a rush, I said. And I meant it. My brother is hurt. I'm not going to add to his burdens. I am. He said it standing in the doorway, tall and straight, every inch of him radiating controlled intensity. 2 words, and my face went hot. I quickly pulled off his military coat and held it out. Here, take this back. He didn't take it. Instead, his voice went soft.
Keep it.
I need to go handle some things at the base. I'll come pick you up for dinner. Rest well. Then he paused and added, also, I hope you'll seriously consider. I'd make a good choice for marriage. Before I could respond, he pulled the door shut gently from outside. Lock the bolt. Don't open for anyone except me. I managed through the door, my voice coming out smaller than I intended. I heard his boots on the wooden floor, growing fainter until they disappeared down the stairs. My face was burning. I'd thought he was the cold, unreachable type, the kind of man you have to chase. Turns out he's a straight shooter. Says exactly what he means, no games, no hints. Just, I want you, consider me, I'll be back for dinner. Tang Yuan peeked up at me. Master, are you blushing?
No.
It's just warm in here. It bought it, or pretended to. The island climate really is more comfortable than the capital, or anywhere we'd passed on the train. I told Tang Yuan to wake me if there's any danger, kicked off my shoes, peeled off my outer layer, and crawled under the covers. The bedding smelled faintly of soap. I was asleep within minutes. Downstairs, the clerk was counting time. At exactly 5 minutes, Jiang Yi came down the stairs. He asked her to look after the girl in room 208, said he'd come by every mealtime to take me to the cafeteria, and that he'd renew the room fee every 3 days. The clerk smiled knowingly. The famously cold, unmarried Commander Jiang, finally chasing someone. The island's biggest bachelor problem might just solve itself. Jiang Yi drove back to base. First stop, the communications office, where he sent a telegram to my brother's hospital. She's arrived safely. Don't worry. Then he dove into the pile of work waiting for him as the newly promoted regimental commander. Apparently, he handles difficult problems the way he handles everything else. Fast, decisive, and without breaking a sweat. His superior, Division Commander Duan, had been waiting for him. The commander's office was full of cigarette smoke from a meeting with the political commissar and the cultural troop leader. They'd been discussing an upcoming matchmaking social. Unmarried military officers paired with eligible young women, including volunteers from the cultural troop. Jiang Yi walked in, frowned at the smoke, and before sitting down, crossed the room and pushed open a window. He didn't ask permission. He just did it. Fresh air first, then business. Commander Duan smiled proudly at his protege, the youngest regimental commander in the division. Sit down, Xiao Jiang. What do you need? I wonder if Zhang Yi is going to mention me. Probably not yet. He doesn't seem like the type to announce things before they're settled. But the matchmaking social is interesting. I wonder who else will be there, and whether a certain someone will try to make sure I don't meet any other candidates. While I napped at the guest house, Zhang Yi went straight to his commanding officer. I found out later what happened in that meeting. Division Commander Duan had been waiting for him. The old man's first order of business was the same thing everyone on this island apparently worries about: Zhang Ye's love life. A matchmaking social was being organized, all unmarried officers required to attend. Commander Duan was ready to drag Zhang Yi there by his collar, if necessary. He didn't have to. Report, Commander. I already have someone I'm pursuing, requesting permission to skip the matchmaking event. Commander Duan nearly fell out of his chair. He made Zhang Yi repeat himself. Zhang Yi did, word for word, standing at attention, completely serious. The commander demanded details.
Who is she?
Someone from the base. A local girl? Neither. She's Liu Xiaobai's sister. I picked her up at the station today. Commander Duan relaxed. At least she's a real person, not some excuse to dodge the event. But he raised a concern. I just turned 18, and Zhang Yi is 6 years older. Zhang Yi didn't flinch. 6 years is nothing. I'll be more patient with her than any man her own age. More protective. More understanding. The commander was impressed. He'd always thought Zhang Yi was simply cold by nature, incapable of romantic feeling. Turns out the man just hadn't met the right person. Duan gave his approval. He'd grant Zhang Yi leave time to properly court me. But he added a warning. Love can't be forced. If the girl doesn't want you, you don't push. You don't bully. You accept it. Understood? Understood, Zhang Yi said. But what he was thinking, apparently, was something different. The commander's saying was, you can't sweeten a melon by twisting it off the vine. Zhang Yi's private amendment. Maybe it's not sweet, but it still quenches your thirst. He's lived 2 lifetimes, though I don't know what that means yet, and I'm the only person who's ever made his heart move.